actually, it was the modeling field that pulled...
Meet BJ and Camy Arnett. This dynamic duo are the creators of one of the most popular shows on the Christian television network. This hot show is called BYOBB, which simply put stands for...
Bring your own Bible, baby! I'm Pastor C.
And I'm Faithful First.
Wherever we are, we're watching BYOBB.
How these two ended up together is quite a fascinating tale. Camy is a Haitian immigrant who carved out a successful acting and modeling career in the late 80s and early 90s. As a model, his face was splashed across countless billboards and magazines. In television, he starred in several shows, including the smash hit Star Trek: The Next Generation.
I'm picking up sporadic life signs throughout the saucer section.
He was on his way to the top when he had an encounter that forever changed his life.
I met a gentleman that was in Jews for Jesus movement, and the Lord just converted me within 2 hours of that time, and I've never been the same since.
Not only did Camy change, but his career would change as well. He was just about to sign a contract to become the lead actor in a new television series. This role would require Camy to pose nude, which he refused to do. So the studio made him another offer.
You don't have to do the nudity or the which was really partial or back nudity. You don't have to do it. We'll get your body double, and that was a compromise. And so as I began to really contemplate that, God says, no, people will still think it's you. And how, and so you can't do the two things. You have to get away from even the appearance of evil. And so God pulled me out of that. Not to pull me away from acting, but to pull acting out of me.
Now let's rewind and get you up to speed on what's happening in BJ's life.
I had really a great career in fashion and in television and with news here in Atlanta.
One day she met a very handsome model named, you guessed it, Camy.
He walked in the door through one of the agencies that I had contacted. And my mouth kind of fell open, but of course, you kind of play that off. You don't want anybody to know, wow, who is that? And that's, actually it was the modeling field that pulled us together.
Their paths were crossed several times over the years because of the fashion industry. Over time, they became such good friends that BJ asked Camy to be her son's godfather. Though they were close, their union was unlikely. Camy was married and BJ was trapped in an abusive relationship. One day, Camy, along with another friend, confronted BJ about the abuse.
We kind of cornered her one day and dealt with the situation and really asked her some hard questions. And she fell out in the middle of the floor, sobbing. And I spent maybe the rest of the day telling her how important she was, because this whole 10-year span of relationship had just annihilated her self-esteem. See, at the time, too, now I'm married, and I leave, after that incident, leave Atlanta and head to New York and have my own life.
Though the words of her friends were encouraging, they were not long-lasting. BJ began to find solace in alcohol.
In my drinking stupor, I just became very, very depressed. I began to gain a lot of weight, get really depressed from this 5'2" model body to this really over 200 pounds at the peak. And in that depression, one night I just said, I can't do this anymore. Something has got to work. I just cried out. And I mean, I was screaming, wailing in the night. Around, I don't know, maybe 3 o'clock in the morning, I got a phone call saying that my grandpa had passed, who was my heart. And shortly after my grandpa died, I said, I give it all up to you, Lord, because I cannot do this by myself. I just simply cannot.
BJ and Camy had lost contact for 6 long years. During that time, BJ left that abusive relationship, finding comfort and healing in the love of Jesus Christ. Meanwhile, Camy's faith was being tested to the limit. He was preparing to go into full-time ministry when he says all hell broke loose.
I had been married for 15 years. My wife left, took the children, the whole deal. Lost, the Mercedes, lost the big house, you name it, went bankrupt. Life fell apart.
Camy's wife divorced him, and he ended up living in the back room of a friend's apartment.
From that back room, the Lord said to me, you haven't seen your godson in a long time. You ought to find out how he's doing.
Camy called a friend and got the number of his old buddy, BJ. However,
she wouldn't answer my calls.
I was kind of rebuilding. My daddy had died, and my sister had been murdered. So I had had enough. And I remember standing in the hall of my dad's house and just cleaning up after he had passed and hearing his voice again, and my heart just fell. He was on the phone 5 hours later, and I am not joking. It was literally 5 hours. We were getting married.
8 months later, BJ and Camy became one. 7 years later, they're still walking as one in love, ministry, and even career. They fused their love for God with their skills in entertainment and created
Bring Your Own Bible, baby! The television show, it's a half-hour show. We have interviews, we have the teaching, we go to the detention centers, we have reviews, we do on-the-street reporting, the whole deal. And we cover all of life from a Christian perspective.
Not only are the Arnetts changing the face of television, but they're also touching lives behind the camera as well.
We walk into auditions and the people go, wow, a couple that actually like each other. And so all this, all the while they're shooting the commercial, they are watching to see, are we really what we say we are, or will there be a breakdown? And the entire day, and that's the ministry.
It seems there's no stopping this powerful couple. So what does the future hold for Mr. and Mrs. Arnett?
We see God saving souls and discipling nations. We see God overtaking kingdoms. We see God overtaking entertainment and music and film.